I'm just noticing my candle is on its last legs. It might be totally burned down by the end of this video, so just keep an eye on that. But hi everyone, so I wanted to do a good old-fashioned wrap up. I don't do these monthly typically. I think I usually just do them when I feel like I've got enough books to talk about, and I've got 6 here. So I thought I would just do a review of all the 6 books that I read so far this year. I've been having a really good reading year so far. Like, I know we're very early into 2025, but I just feel like I've been reading more. I've been reading a lot in my free time. I've been enjoying what I've been reading. So I hope the rest of this year continues. But saying that, I started with a book that was kind of mediocre actually, and that is Violet Made of Thorns by Gina Chen. This was an audiobook listen as well, and I really did enjoy the audiobook. The narration, I thought it was done very well. I did hear, please correct me if I'm wrong, the author was planning a duology for this series, but then it was cancelled and they had to fit everything into one book. And I can kind of see that. I can see where maybe the author would have left off on like a bit of a cliffhanger and continued on the story, because for a small fantasy book it had a lot of world building. I feel like the author was setting up for a series, which is unfortunate, and I think the book suffered because of it, but I still actually really enjoyed it. It was like a 3.5 for me, 3.25. I rounded it down to 3 stars on Goodreads, and this is like a new adult romantasy, I would say. The romance is definitely the focal point of the story. But in this story you have Violet. She is a seer and she's an orphan as well, and she was actually taken in by the king in this kingdom to be the official seer. What I love about her character, she's very morally grey. So she gives predictions based on what the king wants. She doesn't mind lying to further her own career or to do the king's bidding a little bit. So she is kind of like not a villain, but definitely very morally grey, but she is still the hero character too, which I really enjoy. I love when the main character is questionable and not always the hero of the story, so I did really enjoy that. She, as a child, saves Prince Cyrus, so obviously the king's son. Cyrus has always like disliked how Violet has been used by the king, and they do have this rivalry, enemies to lovers trope. They're definitely really attracted to each other, but they also despise each other a little bit as well. Violet is kind of told to make a false prophecy of Cyrus's love story, and this is important because who Cyrus marries is very important for this kingdom and kind of the political tensions around this neighbouring nations. They're kind of on the brink of war. So yeah, there is a good bit of plot here. I found maybe the world building and plot a little bit convoluted. However, I love what the author was doing here. It's a pity though, especially when I got to the like epilogue, you see what the author did and I'm like, that was incredible. It was really well done. The idea was very well done. I just don't know if the execution was quite there. I think the world building was slightly convoluted. I liked the romance. I thought that was very well done. I really liked the characters. I loved this twist on a fairy tale that's been done. It was good fun. I really enjoyed listening to this. Just a decent romantasy book. I thought a lot of this book was very fun. It felt like in my head nearly like a Disney movie, like an animated Disney movie, rather than anything in a serious fantasy world, if that makes sense. It did feel very fairy tale like, and I really liked the author's take on a classic fairy tale and how it can be perceived. But yeah, just wish the plotting and world building wasn't as messy as it was. It was a bit clunky in places. So yeah, it was good fun. It was just kind of a decent good new adult romantasy. I read the final Raven Cycle book, so I read The Raven King. I'll link my Vlogmas video that I did in the corner for my real-time thoughts on this book. I was wondering how the story was going to wrap up, and I'm just really happy with how it did. What I love about this series is I feel like Maggie Stiefvater doesn't leave one stone unturned. I feel just like every single sentence in this story matters, and the plotting of this series has just been so good. So just even like little things that were mentioned in book 1 came to fruition here in the best way possible. I love this series. This was 5 stars. The Raven Cycle is about Blue. She's more or less the main character. She's from a commune of psychics and she's quite poor. She kind of falls into this friend group of really rich boys, actually, called the Raven Boys. They're called the Raven Boys because the symbol of their school, which is Aglenby Academy, I think that's how you pronounce it, is a raven. So you have Gansey, Ronan, Adam and Noah. Gansey is kind of the leader of the group, and he is desperately trying to find this Welsh king that is buried buried on a ley line, and he has his reasons, which I won't delve into, but I've kind of always said this about these books, but they're just very atmospheric, beautiful books. The plot is definitely more secondary, it's definitely more of a character driven story, but the characters are so well done. It's very unbelievable, but in the best way. It's kind of a definitely magical realism. This is a fantasy book, fun YA book. Really loved these stories. I loved how everything was tied up. This was definitely more focused on Gansey. I feel like book 1 was Adam's book, book 2 was Ronan's, book 3 was Blue's, and book 4 was Gansey's book. Even though you have multiple POVs, each book kind of focuses on one of them kind of as the main character a little bit. But yeah, obviously I can't talk about the plot of this one too much, otherwise I'll give spoilers. I just love that there's a graphic novel version of this coming out in the summer, the first book, The Raven Boys, so I'm assuming she's going to do all 4. I'm excited that I have the Dreamer trilogy to go through, which is Ronan's kind of spin-off series, so I'm glad I'm not done with the Raven cycle, but I am officially done with the 4 books. I'm just glad there's more for me to read. There's just lovely romances in this. I think the writing is perfect. I love the writing. I think it's really funny. It can be very dark and scary too. So I just love that balance of like humor plus seriousness and scariness actually. Like I found especially book 3 and 4 like probably has the most eerie scenes in it. Not that they're like horror books at all. They're just like a little bit eerie, a little bit creepy. It's aimed at teenagers. The characters themselves are 16 to 18 roughly. Just beautiful books, just so beautiful. I think if you haven't read them, please do. I do say this knowing it they're not particularly for everyone, I don't think, but it really hit for me. I really loved Steve Otter's writing style. I just thought it was so funny. I thought it was really heartfelt as well. Just really good. All of them have been 5 stars for me. The next book I have is Hellbent by Leigh Bardugo. I have a lot of series here. This is book 2 in the Alex Stern series, so this is the sequel to Ninth House. And I think unfortunately maybe left too much of a gap between Ninth House and this, because reading this I forgot some details. I'm generally very good with remembering series even if I have time between books. I think I'm generally good at remembering plots as just names, so I think I kind of wish I like looked at a summary or something of Ninth House before I went into this, but still I had a great time. This was definitely a 4.5 for me. I rounded it down to 4. I really enjoyed this, and I actually think I liked this better than Ninth House. I think just the subject matter is a little bit too dark for me to give these 5 stars. Unlike The Raven Cycle, which I feel like is aimed at me. I don't think these are particularly aimed at me, but I still really like them. And this is an adult fantasy. In the first book you have this character called Alex. She's actually struggling in life a lot. She's been into drugs, she's kind of in with the wrong crowd. She actually has this ability to see ghosts, and she's actually hired by Yale University because she has this ability, and they want her to be in charge of the elite society, so they basically look after and monitor the magical societies that are on Yale. So her job is to basically ward off ghosts. She's taught by her predecessor Darlington, and Darlington kind of helps her learn what to do basically. The first book has this subplot of a murder mystery, and you meet this detective called Turner. You also have Dawes, she's one of the people in this society as well. So it's really fun, quite dark though, so I think just if you're not okay with super dark themes, maybe just be careful going in, I suppose. Hellbent was definitely a really fun reading experience. I really liked the kind of like clips of Alex kind of having a normal university life. So because she's hired by Leith, she's allowed to be a student at Yale as well. So you can see her making friends and going to parties and going to her classes and stuff. There's kind of a subplot of that where she can see where her life could be normal, but it's really not. She's got so much kind of life or death serious things happening with the Leith Society. It's just very thrilling. I love Leigh Bardugo's writing. It's very vivid. Like I just see everything really clearly playing out as a movie in my head. I loved that Turner and Dawes were a little bit more main characters in this story. The main plot of this is basically a rescue mission, and it is very well done, very thrilling. It is such a fantasy, a little bit like The Raven Cycle where it like doesn't feel very real. I think Bardugo did try to make Alex as kind of realistic as possible. They introduced a new fear for her in this, and I feel like that fear was brought up a lot, and I think that was Bardugo's attempt of making Alex a little bit more vulnerable, a little bit more believable, but I didn't quite believe it. I appreciate the effort, if that makes sense. I do really like Alex as a character though. I don't know if Bardugo is planning any more I'm not quite sure. I can see that she could, so I hope she does. Maybe if there's a book 3, I'm definitely going to pick it up. If you like dark academia, thrillers, darker fantasy books, these are definitely a good recommendation. There was another like murder mystery type subplot in this as well, but I didn't feel like it was as strong as the first book. Generally, I think it's on par with Ninth House. If you liked Ninth House, I think you will like Hellbent. If anything, I enjoyed it like slightly more. So yeah, just very good, quite unique series. Then I read I read this chunker, The Crown of Gilded Bones by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I gave this 3 stars. That's generous, but I feel like it's fair. I weirdly had a good time with this, but this is a adult romantasy series. I did this in my 24-hour readathon, romance readathon, so again I'll link that in the corner. This is book 3 out of, I think there's going to be 7 books. I think book 6 is coming out this year and 7 will come out at some point. I thought there was 5 and they were done with the 5. I didn't realise it was still ongoing, but this is the 3rd book in the From Blood and Ash series. In this world, you have children that go to ascend to the gods. It depends on your birth order, but Poppy is the main character and her ascension is the most important. She's the chosen maiden. There was a maiden before her. I think every so often the gods want a maiden to be ascended, and Poppy is that. And because of this, the royal family in this kingdom have kind of kept her away to protect her. So she's not really allowed to socialize, she's not really allowed to show her face. She's supposed to be kind of kept in total isolation. So she does have one companion called Tawny, but like that's it. She has her guards as well, Victor and Hawk. Victor is kind of a, I would say, father figure to her, and Hawk is her love interest. It's kind of a forbidden romance between Poppy and Hawk. Poppy does, however, in secret learns how to fight. She's very proficient with her dagger. Victor has taught her, and she has this ability to feel other people's emotions and kind of control them in a way. Like she can ease suffering if someone is suffering, for example. That's how the story starts. There's this political tension between their kingdom and this kingdom called Atlantia, and so much changes. Like so much changes from book 1 to book 3, so I will commend the author for that. The first book I gave 3 stars. I actually really enjoyed the plotting of that, and I did not like the writing. I thought the writing was really not edited at all. It's like the author just wrote it down and didn't look at it again. These are independently published, so maybe that is the reason the editing was minimal, I think, which is fine. It reads a bit like a fan fiction, not in a bad way, but it just kind of reminds me of one. Unfortunately, the second book, I felt like the writing improved, maybe because of the popularity of the first book, but I found the plotting very mundane. It felt very middle book. It felt very info dumpy. Similar with this book, I felt a lot of this book was very action-packed and I really enjoyed those. So definitely the start and end of this book, I felt very interested in the plot. I thought it was very well done, but definitely suffers from middle book syndrome as well, this one. I feel like Armentrout's idea is okay, just the execution not great. I think she's trying to create this really high fantasy setting where there's lots of politics, there's lots of different creatures in this world, but she only seems to convey it through info dumping, which is a pity. It's a lot of info dumping in this series, so if you don't like that, I don't think you'll like this series. The writing can be quite jarring too. I have noticed an improvement, but she loves her full stops. She loves going, I felt this way. You know, it's very jarring to read sometimes. Generally, I think the idea is very interesting. I like the plotting. Yeah, it's just not quite there with how it's built, unfortunately. The writing's kind of weak. And then the romance itself, I'm getting a little bored. The romance is very much the main point of the books. I think definitely the plotting is definitely the afterthought. The romance is definitely number 1. And I feel that in the writing, it feels like there has to be like a smutty scene every so many pages. But some people enjoy that, so that's fine. For me personally, I don't mind those scenes if they are more, I don't know, built into the love story plot. But they feel a little bit forced a little bit in this series sometimes. Like they have to be there because it's a romance book rather than it being a romance story. I hope that makes sense. But I found the first 100 pages of this really exciting. Found the middle quite slow, very info dumpy, but then found the last like 200 pages or so very interesting. I think the plot really amped up. I really liked Poppy's character development towards the end. I think that I'm looking forward to book 4 to see how she is. I think I'm not loving the main characters. I think they're okay. So generally, I think it's an okay series. I like it enough to keep going. I think I would like to keep up with it. I know Armitage done a few really popular books, so I definitely wouldn't rule her out as an author, but maybe it's just not quite for me. But I do like it enough that I think it's okay. I will keep going. I think I wouldn't run to pick up book 4, but I think I would be happy to pick it up someday. What I like about these books is that they read very quickly, even though they're very, very chunky. They're very easy to kind of get into. And I think I really enjoy reading books 3, 4, and 5 in a series because you know the writing style, you know the characters, you know what you're getting a little bit. So in a weird way, it's quite comforting. Definitely improvement from book 2, I thought. Still mediocre, but happy enough to keep going. Part of that same video, I actually read Happy Place by Emily Henry for the first time. I know this has been out for a while, but I'm kind of slowly making my way through Emily Henry's backlist. I read Funny Story last year and I really enjoyed it. So the characters in this are called Harriet and Wynne, and they were actually engaged, but their engagement broke up. And you don't know why at the start of this. Harriet and Wynne have always had this holiday each year. It kind of started out with just the girls, but then slowly their partners were introduced to going to this holiday every year. Sabrina is actually quite well off. Her father owns this really magnificent holiday home that they always go to every year, and this is Harriet's happy place. She always thinks of fun memories with her friends going on this holiday every year. I love the chapter headings. It's like happy place or real life. Harriet and Wynne haven't told their friends that their engagement has broken down and they've broken up. They actually made a pact that only Harriet would go this year, but circumstances made Wynne have to go as well, so they kind of have to pretend that they're still together. They don't want to ruin the holiday. The house is being sold, so it's a little bit of like a last hurrah. It's the last time, so they don't want to ruin the holiday on everyone else, so they didn't want to say anything. The story is over the course of this week, them just pretending to still be in love, pretending to still be a couple. So I thought this book was very strong. I ended up giving it a 4-star. It's in the adult contemporary romance genre. I thought the emotions that this book invokes in you as a reader was very, very strong. I wish I nearly filmed myself reading this because I'm sure I looked close to tears at some point or really elated in other times. It's very melancholic. It's very, very sad, which is so ironic that it's called Happy Place, because you have this very sad situation that Harriet and Wynne are in, but then you also have the backstory as well. It does present day and it goes back over their relationship as well, when they first met and when they're a couple. And the happy moments in this book feel really sad reading them because you know it's going to end at some point. So I thought that was well done. I really enjoyed the concept of reading from a couple that have already been a couple and already in love over the course of, I think it's 8 years they've been together, 8, 9, 10 years. So I thought that was really, really strong and well done. I have some gripes with Emily Henry books. I thought the plot setup in this was a little weak. I thought the reasoning for the characters not telling their friends was quite weak, and it was only just there so Emily Henry would have a plot. I feel like there's some scenes where the author was trying to be funny and I didn't find them very funny, like certain dialogue choices. I think Emily Henry's trying to do the rom-com thing where I don't find these very funny or like rom-coms. I feel like it's kind of straddling between adult contemporary romance and rom-com, and it's a little bit in both. I wish Emily Henry would kind of choose either or, if that makes sense, because the rom-com isn't really working for me in this, like the funny parts of it. But maybe that's just my humor and Emily Henry's humor being different. That's fine. Other people would find this funny, like certain aspects of the dialogue. I then also find the characters, especially the main character Harriet, very unbelievable. Like very, very, very unbelievable. And I've noticed this in a few of her other books as well. I feel like in Funny Story and People We Meet on Vacation, I felt the characters are a little bit very made up and don't feel very real to me. And that's funny because most Emily Henry reviews I read or watch, people say the opposite. They feel like the characters feel very real to them, and that's must be just a personal preference thing because I don't really find that. I feel like the characters are very this is their personality, here's their likes and dislikes, here's the trauma they had as a child. It's very bullet point. It doesn't feel very real. And it felt, especially with Harriet, her inability to communicate felt so unbelievable for a character that is nearly 30 years old. This book basically is one big miscommunication trope. So if you don't like that, you won't like this book. I don't mind that miscommunication happens in real life all the time. It happens all the time. Loads of people are bad at communicating, but I think there is like maybe an age thing to this, maybe because I'm a similar age to Harriet, and I'm like, I can't imagine not telling my partner how I'm feeling. I can't imagine not telling my friends this major event. Her inability to communicate, especially with her parents as well, felt very like 22-year-old. You know, it felt very like she was a teenager in her inability to communicate. I'm sure there is people like that in the world. I felt like I couldn't connect there at all. And I'm definitely someone who, I wouldn't say I'm particularly a people pleaser, but I would lean that way, and making sure other people are comfortable above myself, keeping people happy. Yeah, I think I'm okay at communicating too. So I think that just took me out a little bit. I just felt Harriet especially very unbelievable. You have the female characters in this, so you have Harriet, Sabrina and Cleo, and they're like best friends from university. They're all very, very different, but they just kind of happen to live together in university, and they're just best friends, her sisterhood. And there is actually a line in here where Cleo goes, "We didn't talk yet." You know, and it's been like 3 or 4 days into their holiday, and I'm like, that would never happen. I'm just like, if I haven't seen my best friends in a year, the first thing you would do is have an all-nighter with a glass of wine and you tell your life updates too. You know, it's not, it didn't feel very real, like the friendship either. So I don't know, I just feel like if the characters were maybe younger, I think if they were like still in university or something, I think this would be more believable. But the fact that these characters are all pushing 30 and Harriet can't share her feelings or have her life figured out, it felt a bit weird to me. It didn't feel very believable, but I feel like those miscommunication things are only there so Emily Henry can have a plot. Do you know what I mean? So I just think the setup of the plot of this book was a little bit weak. However, I still feel like the emotions and how it's written was really, really well done. So that's why I gave it 4 stars. The process of reading it was excellent. I just felt like maybe the setup was so unbelievable that it took me out, and the characters' reasonings so unbelievable that it took me out as well. So for me, it was definitely like a high 3. I would say 3.75. I rounded it up to the 4. I always round up and round down on Goodreads, but I want to give my actual rating when I can when I'm doing wrap-ups. That being said, I loved Wynn's character. I thought he was well done. I thought he was well developed. So yeah, just a good book, but just weak in places. And I think I preferred Funny Story more than this, but I thought it was a step up from People We Meet on Vacation. I've more Emily Henry to read. Her new book that's coming out in April does sound more funny, so I'm just wondering if she'll lean in more in the rom-com for that one, and I hope that goes well. Emily Henry is known for doing good romances where there's more depth to it than just the romance. I did really, really like Harriet's maybe character development, would you say, like kind of going for what she wants in life. I really did enjoy that. I just felt the weak points in this were very glaring, which is a pity. I feel like I gave out about this book than talking about the good points, but it is, the writing's very clear, plays out like a movie. The chapters are kind of short and sharp, so it's just like a good paced book as well. I liked how it went from present day to back in the past. The emotions hit hard in this book, so just bear with that in mind. I noticed I think my mood was a little bit lower reading this. I was like, oh, I think this is affecting me, but my candle's about to go. I'm just saying. I'm on my last book anyway. So I will end on a high. This is One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig, or Gillig, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce her second name. This was 5 stars for me. I loved this. I started this book in that same video, but finished it afterwards. It's funny reading this after reading this because I kind of realized what good world building is and this was done very, very well, because I think this book could have been very convoluted, but it wasn't. Again, this for me I think was like a 4.75, but it definitely gave me those like 5-star feelings, so I'm rounding it up to a 5. And a bit like Violet Made of Thorns, it's like a new adult romantasy. It's definitely more plot and romance are kind of equal in the book, rather than the romance being the main point and the plot being a subpoint. This was very much plot, romance, equal, which I really, really enjoyed. This was the best ending to a book I've read in a long time, and I'm just so excited to pick up book 2. So this is only a duology, so can't wait to pick up book 2. I'm sure it's going to be very different, but I'm looking forward to it. This is about Elspeth, so she's the main character. In this kingdom, there's this like magical plague, and if you're caught having it, you're kind of executed basically. But Elspeth's father and her aunt actually hide her away, hide the fact that she had the plague. If you survive these plagues, you can gain magical abilities, and Elspeth's magical ability is if she touches a Providence card, she kind of gains their magic. So the magic system in this is really, really well done. You have this king, I think it was 500 years previously, he made this bargain with the spirit of the woods, and he made these Providence cards. So each card, it varies in rarity and abilities. So all you do is tap the card 3 times and you can use the card, tap it again 3 times and it stops. When Elspeth touches one, she actually absorbs the magic. There's this mist descending on the kingdom, and that's actually how the plague starts, is if you get caught up in the mist, you can catch the plague, and it's descending more and more and more on the kingdom each year. If all the cards are gathered together, they'll be able to banish the mist. So the kingdom is basically trying their hardest to gather all the Providence cards. So the magic system is really, really well done. It does sound a bit convoluted, but it was done so well. Like, I think the author could have info dumped and made it really convoluted, but she didn't. It was written really well done. Like, even Elspeth learning about the cards is done via like bedtime stories when she's a child, you know, things like that. It's kind of told to you in a story way. I thought it was very well done. It has kind of like an Austerian, like Bridgerton-esque society. So you have like the high society, the rich families going to celebrate the equinox and solstice with the king. You know, there's like courtships and dowries and class systems of people. However, it's also kind of set in this dark Gothic setting as well, so really, really fun setting. When Elspeth was a child, she touched the nightmare card. The spirit of the card is basically living in her head now. As a main character, she's really interesting. Elspeth's very sharp, but you don't know if it's her or if it's the spirit in her head. They have this like love-hate relationship with each other. I think he protects her, like she can have superhuman strength basically if she uses his help, but she kind of degenerates. So there are people trying to get the cards themselves. Yeah, the cards are very valuable, obviously, so you've people trying to use them incorrectly. You've some people trying to help the king and some people not. So the nightmare card is actually kind of slowly taking over her though, the more she uses him and the older she's getting. So it is really interesting having a main character that's nearly like 2 main characters. She has this fake courtship as well. She kind of gets roped into this secret group as well because of this courtship. This book was super well done. I loved the characters, I loved the romance, I loved the plotting. I think the writing was really good. It felt nostalgic reading this. Like, I started reading it and I was like, oh, this is why I love reading. You know, I had that feeling. It just good new adult fantasy. It's escapism at its finest. I just think it was really, really well done. Definitely the best ending to a book I've read in ages. My only gripes with it, I felt like the pacing of the romance was a little bit off in places, sometimes the dialogue, but very, very minor. I think Elm was my favourite character. I really liked how he was done. I think if you just want good escapism, definitely pick this series up. I loved it. I thought it was so, so good. I can't wait to get to book 2. Just super gothic and eerie, but so nostalgic and wholesome too. That's how I felt reading it, and I really, really enjoyed it. Is my candle gone? It just went out. Yeah, my candle just lasted the length of this video. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you got some new books for your TBR. I hope I was clear enough in my reviews. I'm not sure if I am or not. But yeah, if you want to subscribe, I do anything bookish related on this channel. So reading wrap-ups like this one, TBR games, reading vlogs, reading challenges, all that stuff. I'll leave all these books that I mentioned and all my socials in the description. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.